The word weeaboo didn't begin as a serious insult. It emerged from the corners of the internet, first appearing in a surreal webcomic called the Peri-Bible Fellowship. Its rise to notoriety came when users on 4chan adopted it as a sanitized replacement for the racialized slur Wapanese. From that point, the word mutated. It quickly became a shorthand for those perceived as overly obsessed with Japanese pop culture, people who not only consumed anime or manga, but seemed to fetishize Japan itself. They were criticized for rejecting their own cultural identity in favor of a fantasy constructed from Japanese media exports. But beneath this label lies something more complex, a mirror reflecting deeper identity issues, disillusionment, and a search for meaning in an increasingly fragmented world. Psychoanalytically, the weeaboo identity can be seen as a displacement mechanism, where internal conflicts, such as alienation or lack of personal belonging, are projected onto an idealized external culture. Japan, with its order, aesthetics, and emotional subtlety, becomes an other that promises fulfillment. Rather than simply mocking fandom, the term weeaboo polices the borders between healthy admiration and pathological obsession. Yet even this boundary is fluid, highlighting how Western internet culture wrestles with globalization, cultural identity, and the anxieties of modern life. Stereotypically, the weeaboo is portrayed as awkward, overly excited, and inauthentic. Someone who mimics Japanese speech, dresses in cosplay outside of conventions, and inserts kawaii into casual conversation. But this caricature flattens a spectrum of nuanced behavior. It ignores the psychological motivations behind cultural immersion. Many turn to Japanese media during formative years, adolescence, trauma, or isolation, when they're shaping their sense of self. From a Freudian lens, this can be interpreted as introjection, the process of incorporating aspects of the admired other into the ego as a way to construct a more stable identity. Rather than dealing with internal fragmentation, the weeaboo finds coherence in adopting a symbolic framework from a seemingly harmonious foreign culture. Stereotyping these individuals ignores the complexity of their inner lives. For some, it's escapism. For others, it's aesthetic devotion or spiritual resonance. One might be drawn to the cinematic silence of Ghibli films, another to the ritual beauty of a tea ceremony. When society mocks this group, it's not just bullying. It's a rejection of non-normative identity exploration. It triggers secondary trauma, reinforcing the cycle of alienation that led to such immersion in the first place. Engagement with Japanese culture spans a vast continuum. Let's explore three archetypes: Sarah, Alex, and Jamie. Sarah is a casual fan. She watches Attack on Titan, owns a Totoro plushie, and occasionally says "sugoi" for fun. Her interest is recreational, no deeper than watching a foreign film or attending a cultural fair. Alex, however, is on a journey of cultural integration. He learns Japanese, studies calligraphy, and visits Japan. For Alex, this is more than fandom. It's what Carl Jung might call a process of individuation, a conscious effort to form a richer self-concept through engaging with something outside his native paradigm. Then there's Jamie. For her, Japanese culture is not an interest. It's an identity. She has replaced her given name with a Japanese one online. She avoids non-Japanese media. She believes Japan is a utopia. This is where cultural admiration risks becoming fetishization. Jamie's behavior reflects idealization and splitting, a defense mechanism in which Japan is all good, while her own culture becomes all bad. The world is black and white, and Japan is her fantasy of order, beauty, and meaning. But most fans exist in the middle, navigating their interests with balance. They respect the culture, remain critical when necessary, and integrate it into their lives without losing themselves. Japanese cultural exports are not random entertainments. They are art forms shaped by centuries of philosophy and social tension. Anime and manga are often saturated with themes of impermanence, mono no aware, moral ambiguity, and existential inquiry. From the loneliness of Evangelion to the rustic nostalgia of My Neighbor Totoro, these narratives offer emotional textures rarely explored in Western media. For those raised in emotionally repressed environments, these mediums provide projective identification, a way to place one's unconscious feelings onto characters and safely explore them. Visually, anime offers what Jacques Lacan might call the imaginary, a seductive, symbolic world where the viewer temporarily forgets their fragmented self. It becomes a stage on which unfulfilled desires are played out, and the viewer becomes whole, if only for 22 minutes. This is why so many find comfort in anime's rhythm. It's not just escapism, it's emotional regulation, identity rehearsal, and symbolic play. Manga too becomes a diary. It's black and white panels letting readers project their own colors, their own interpretations. It's participatory, not passive. It invites self-exploration. The allure of Weeaboo culture in the West reflects a psychological yearning for identity, escape, and belonging. But when we look to East Asia, particularly South Korea, a curious contrast appears. In Korea, there exists a parallel, yet ideologically inverted phenomenon: ilb culture. While not focused on Japanese fandom per se, ilb users share striking similarities with Western weeaboos in their psychological and social positioning, but with one critical twist: radicalization. ilb, short for Ilgan Best Jojangso, Daily Best Archive, is a far-right online community infamous for its extreme nationalism, misogyny, and anti-progressive rhetoric. While Western weeaboos often fetishize Japan as an exotic ideal, Korean ILB users aggressively cling to a distorted, hyper-patriotic image of Korea itself, while paradoxically praising Japanese colonialism and criticizing modern Korean society. At first glance, these seem like opposites, but psychoanalytically, both reveal the same root: deep alienation. Western weeaboos often escape into Japanese media because they feel unseen or misunderstood in their own culture. Similarly, many ILB members are social outcasts, young men disillusioned with Korea's hyper-competitive society, feeling emasculated, unemployed, or marginalized in a rapidly modernizing culture that no longer affirms their identity. In Freudian terms, both groups demonstrate reaction formation, a defense mechanism where unacceptable internal conflict is transformed into exaggerated external behavior. Weeaboos idealize the other, Japan, to escape a rejected self, while ILB members project self-hatred outward by attacking feminists, liberals, and minorities. Both are hermetic communities, online echo chambers where individuals retreat from mainstream society and reinforce each other's grievances. In these safe zones, the real world is mocked as corrupt, stupid, or hopeless, while the subcultural fantasy offers order, meaning, and even moral superiority. Yet their objects of obsession differ. For weeaboos, it's a fantasy Japan, colourful, romantic, emotionally expressive. For ILB, it's a mythic Korea, militarized, patriarchal, and ideologically pure. Where the weeaboo dreams of a foreign utopia, the ILB longs for a return to an imaginary past. Both represent what Jung might call shadow projections, where the darker aspects of the self are disowned and cast onto society, or idolized into unreachable perfection. In both cases, reality is intolerable, and so they build alternatives. But these alternatives come at a cost. For weeaboos, the risk is cultural fetishization and personal stagnation. For ILB, the danger is extremism and social toxicity. Both reflect how disconnection from one's environment can drive the psyche to seek safety in illusion. Why does weeaboo culture attract so many? And why do some take it to extremes? At its core lies escape and reconstruction. For many, the world is disorienting, hostile, or meaningless. In this void, Japanese media offers structure, emotion, and beauty. Psychologically, this can be framed as compensatory fantasy, where real life is chaotic, the world of anime is intelligible, emotions have arcs, pain has purpose, characters grow, fail, cry, and get back up. There is catharsis. In these stories, people find what they lack: recognition, resilience, community. For someone bullied, Naruto is not a cartoon, it's therapy. The weeaboo identity also fulfills belongingness needs in Maslow's hierarchy. Online forums, conventions, and cosplay groups offer acceptance and kinship. For those alienated from mainstream society, neurodivergent individuals, LGBTQ+ youth, or trauma survivors, this culture becomes a sanctuary, but the danger lies in over-identification. When one sense of self collapses into a cultural symbol, it becomes fragile. This leads to defensiveness, elitism, or even aggression when that symbol is criticized. Thus, understanding weeaboo culture through psychoanalysis reveals not pathology, but yearning for coherence, connection, and a life that feels less hollow. That's all for today. Thanks for watching as always. See you next dive.